Wager Talk Today for Tuesday, March the 11th. The conference tournaments continue. We have some finals tonight, and we also have the first few rounds of some of the big boys, which will be going on all week. March Madness is here, and we have you covered every day, noon Eastern, live here on Wager Talk TV. I am Steve Merrill, once again filling in for the Prez. He is scheduled to be back tomorrow on Wednesday, so don't you fear. But in the meantime, we've got a great show, Prez Free Tuesday, which means Marco D'Angelo is allowed to appear, as is Ronald Cabang and Andy Lang. Also, Gianni The Greek, of course, Steam Report at the end. Ronald's going to cover some NBA. Andy, of course, will look at some of the off sports. He is the prop master. But Marco, let's dive right into conference tournament action because that's the lead story here for this Tuesday. Great to see you, my friend. And I want to start off with a little Big 12 action. Arizona State, Kansas State. What are you looking at this one?
Well, we got some of the also-rans in the Big 12 in this one, Steve. But, there's got to be a point spread winner in every game. And we're looking at this one. Arizona State, they come into this matchup 1-10 straight up over their last 11 games. Ironically, that one win, Steve, it came against Kansas State, who they're playing today. Now, the Arizona State losing streak has been the result of two things. Defensively, they've allowed opponents to shoot 55, 57, 59, and 45% over the last four games. That in itself is going to get you beaten games. But here's where it's really been ugly for Arizona State. Over their last 9 games, they've been out rebounded, and I had to add this up twice to make sure of this number. 100 rebounds. They've been out rebounded by 100 rebounds over the last 9 games. If you're giving up a high percentage of shots and you're getting crushed on the boards, you know what's going to happen? You're going to lose a lot of basketball games, and that's what's been the story for them. Kansas State is going to want to slow the tempo down. That's the way they play defense, and I think that's going to frustrate this Arizona State team. I'll go ahead. I'll lay it with Kansas State. I'll be honest with you. This number last night was 5.5 when we were breaking it down for the show. We have seen some movement this morning. We saw some sharp early money come in on the Kansas State side, as I'm seeing it now up to 6.5, but it's still laying it with Kansas State for me.
Yeah, and that's the third of 4 Big 12 games. Of course, yesterday here on the channel, Brian Leonard broke down the first game today, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State. So that's on the replay from Monday's show. Marco just gave you the third game tonight at 7 Eastern, Arizona State, Kansas State in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. All right, let's turn to the ACC tournament here for these next couple games, Marco. And, the ACC ain't what it used to be. Not when you and I were growing up. It was a powerhouse conference. I saw Duke at minus 500 to win the conference tournament this week, which is just insane. Who would ever thought we'd have an ACC team at minus 500 to win the conference tournament? And you can get Clemson around 7-1, 8-1. I think Clemson could be a little bit of a sleeper come NCAA tournament. They're a top 30 offense efficiency and defensive team, and they play slow. So it's really probably those two teams. And Duke doesn't even really need to win it necessarily. I think they're locked into a 1 seed. So maybe there could be some surprises. We obviously have an early matchup here, Pittsburgh. And let's talk about a Pittsburgh game. We're not going to talk about that one here on the show, but of course that is your Pitt Panthers against Notre Dame at 2 o'clock Eastern. But let's look at Syracuse, Florida State, which is the nightcap, 7 o'clock Eastern, the third of 3 games today in the ACC. What are you looking at in that one?
Well, again, here's a couple teams that were disappointments this year. And as you said, the ACC is down this year. Remember when the over-under would be, or they're going to be 7, 8 teams? How many are going to make the big dance from the ACC? Well, we've had conference expansion this year in the ACC, and yet we may have the lowest number of ACC teams that we have seen in probably as long as I've been doing this, Steve. But we got to have a winner in this one, and I'm looking here. Syracuse is another team. They come into the tournament, 6 of their last 7 games. They've allowed their opponents to shoot 48% or better in 6 of the last 7 games. That's not going to get the job done. Florida State went 1-4 straight up over the last 5 games of the season. But if you look at the 4 losses, 3 of those 4 losses were against Louisville, Duke, and North Carolina. That is probably, obviously, Louisville and Duke, along with Clemson, the 3 best teams in the ACC. And then you've got North Carolina and Wake Forest after that. So they played the top echelon of the ACC in that losing streak. And then the fourth loss in that stretch came to Virginia, and that was by 3 points. And it immediately followed playing that juggernaut of Louisville, Duke, and North Carolina. Florida State is better than their overall record would indicate. And what they've done, they've lost to the top teams, and they've beaten the teams that they were supposed to, except they did lose 2 games when they went to California. And I don't know that there's a worse travel spot in college basketball than that California to Florida road trip, or vice versa, Florida to California road trip. So I am going to dismiss their 2 losses to Stanford and Cal that one weekend. Florida State, they were 8-3 this year when facing a team with a losing record. That's what they're doing here. Syracuse beat Virginia in their season finale, but Steve, they are only 3-9 against the spread this year following a win. I'm going to go ahead and take Florida State. They've beaten the teams they were supposed to beat this year. I'll go ahead and lay it with Florida State in this one.
Yeah, that's the third of the 3 ACC games tonight on Tuesday, but we do have 4 games tomorrow. The final 3 games tomorrow will play the winners, I believe, of the 3 games tonight. But we do have the matchup set for the first game tomorrow on Wednesday, so I want to get that from you also before we get out of here in the ACC. Tomorrow, Wednesday at noon Eastern, Virginia, not my Virginia Cavaliers against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech about a 1-point favorite right now. Total's around 130.5. Marco, you see anything in this one?
Yeah, this is right where the line should be in this one. You've got the battle of the 8 and 9 seeds. And for some of these other teams, obviously, in the ACC, they're going to need to make a deep run if they're hoping to get an at-large bid. Virginia went 5-4 straight up over the last 9 games of the season, with 3 of those 4 losses coming to the teams we just mentioned in the last one, Duke, North Carolina, and Clemson, the three of the top teams in the conference. And Syracuse on the final game of the season. Now, I tend to dismiss a road loss in the final game of the season, is oftentimes these teams are mailing in that final game, looking ahead to the tournament if they really don't have a reason to play. And being the fact that they were 8-11 in conference going into that final game, they didn't have anything to play. They need to do something in the conference tournament to have any shot. Speaking of dismissing road losses in the season finale, could it have gotten any uglier for Georgia Tech? They were a complete no-show on Saturday when they went to Wake Forest, losing 69-43. Wake Forest, did have a reason to play in that game. They're one of the teams, they're the number 4 seed in the conference. Normally, the number 4 seed would be an automatic out of the ACC to get an at-large bid. But as bad as the ACC has been this year, I think Wake Forest needed that win. It put them at 21 wins on the season. So they had a reason to play in that one. Virginia did beat Georgia Tech 75-61 in Virginia earlier in the season. But I've got to note that Georgia Tech was absolutely in a horrible situational spot. Steve, you're a lot like me where we look at situations in college basketball, and it couldn't have gotten any worse for Georgia Tech, because in that one, they came into that game in their 2 previous games in a 4-day period. They upset not only Louisville, but Clemson in back-to-back games. And then they had to take on Virginia. You want to talk about feeling fat and sassy after those 2 wins? I think it was a horrible spot for them having to go to Virginia after those 2 monster upsets. 3 big games like that in a week period. And so I am going to dismiss that loss at Virginia. And I think they even the slate with a big performance here against Virginia. I'm not sold on this Virginia team. As you said, Steve, not the Virginia team that we're used to seeing over years past. I'll take Georgia Tech and lay the small number.
Yeah, I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall when Tony Bennett steps down like a week before the season began this year as head coach. Very surprising. Ron Sanchez, I think he did that partially so Ron Sanchez would get the job. They wouldn't have time to find somebody else. But at 15-16, 8-12 in the conference, obviously Ron Sanchez is probably not going to be back next season. So we'll see if they can make a little bit of a flurry. 18 teams, 1-8 in the ACC now. And the over-under is at 3.5, Marco, because Louisville, Clemson, Duke are in. UNC is probably 50-50. So it's going to be either 3 or 4 teams that make the NCAA tournament, unless we see a monster upset from one of these other teams that we're talking about this week in the ACC tournament. Yeah, it's Marco D'Angelo, and he crushes it not just in college hoops, but in all sports. Marco, over the past year plus, like 14 months now, you're up 107 games above 500, up over 147 units of profit, and you've got a 7-day special right now, 7 days for just 77. Tell people about that.
Yeah, guys, this is the most exciting week of college basketball. There is action nonstop all week long, morning to night. You know, you're going to have the double headers with all the conference tournaments. If there's 1 week to buy and to get it at a discount, this is the week. And you can pick up 7 days, $77. All you got to do is punch in coupon code MD77. That's MD77 at checkout. You'll get all of my plays for the next 7 days. That's not only college basketball. You'll get anything I have in the NBA, also in hockey. Get it all. 7 days, all access. Guys, I love March Madness, and it starts with the conference tournaments because you get different angles that you can only use this time of the year. This is the only time where you're going to see teams play back-to-back-to-back days if they make a run.
Yeah, it's a fantastic offer because a lot of people, Marco, think this is the best week of college basketball. I know we all get excited for the NCAA tournament, but we have more games going over the next 3 or 4 days, tournament style, than we'll have any time in March Madness afterwards. So it's a great week to try Marco for that 7-day special. Promo code MD77. He's not a medical doctor, but he plays one here occasionally on WagerTalk TV, a handicapping doctor. Marco, great to see you. Stay hot, my friend. And by the way, it includes any 5% best bets he had. He's on a mere 22-7, 5% run the last 29. So once again, MD77 for that 7-day special. Marco D'Angelo, WagerTalk.com. All right, hey, 3 college hoops plays right there, but let's talk and turn now to the NBA. Some pro basketball. Going to give you 3 free plays now in the NBA tonight with NBA expert Ronald Cabang. And Ronald, great to see you. You know, people sleep on the NBA a little bit in March because of college hoops, but this is a great time to be playing pro basketball. We're about a month away, a little over a month away from the NBA playoffs. I've always said if I had a desert island strategy, a desert island handicap that I had to use, it'd probably be the NBA playoffs. That'd be my go-to. I think it's probably the most consistent winner years in and years out. So looking forward to the start of that. But let's talk some NBA with you. We'll start with the Nets and Cavs. Obviously, Cleveland's looked fantastic this year. A lot of people wonder come playoff time if they can knock Boston off. They've got a bottom feeder tonight. Nets played the Lakers yesterday. That game went over, by the way. Ski and I talked about how that Lakers were on a 9-1 under run, and we did squeak out an over by a few points last night with the Nets. So what are you looking at in this Nets-Cavs game tonight?
Yeah, you kind of talk about that Nets team going and actually beating outright the Lakers there, 108-111. And that's the interesting part of it. I know Cam Thomas missed that game yesterday. There's a big trend of him or the Nets going under when he's not in the lineup. He was out due to injury management yesterday as well as Watford. And there's some thought that they will be playing. And I think the total moving up is a little bit telling. So I gave this out to clients yesterday at 226. I do think that it's the over is the way to go here. 3rd game in 4 nights for the Nets as well. 4th game in 6. So some fatigue on their side. But like I said, Cam Thomas and Watford were out yesterday. They're a pretty young squad. They got guys like Tyrese Martin, who's playing a little bit better. Keon Johnson, Noah Clowney is also stepping up offensively. So even if Cam Thomas doesn't play today, they have gone over, I think, in a few games prior to yesterday as well. So I think they should be able to put up points here, even if Cam Thomas doesn't play. But Cam Thomas does help a ton. They're over in 6 of the last 7 games with him in the lineup. The Cavs themselves, they've just been a strong over team in general all season long. 40, 22-1 to the over. At home as favorites as well, 234 combined per game in those spots. And we're seeing a total of at 228.5, and it's still climbing up. If you look at Cavs as double-digit favorites versus teams on no rest, they really push the pace and take advantage of these situations. In those games, 5-1 to the over, average 232 combined in those games as well. And then also, if you look at the net side, like I said, they put up 111 against a Lakers team that has been one of the more better defensive teams in the league in recent weeks. And I mentioned those guys, Keon Johnson, Tyrese Martin, Noah Clowney. They put up a good chunk of points yesterday against those Lakers. And if they're going to be able to help this over, it's going to be those types of guys that get those threes. They shot 18 out of 45 yesterday from three. They're a pretty decent team as far as getting to the free throw line. They did miss a ton, but they got to the free throw line 30 times, 30 opportunities there. They also forced a lot of turnovers and also are one of the better teams in offensive rebounding. So points off turnovers, second chance points, those are all those opportunities the Nets can get to help the over here. I think that the Cavs can do whatever they want. So it's just a matter of what the Cavs can do to help get it over.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some money coming in the over. It opened as low as 223.5. It's now up to 228. Cleveland opened 17.5. They're now up to 19, 18.5, 19. It's crazy NBA this year that we're seeing 18, 19-point favorites almost every week, and they cover quite often. But Ronald once again is looking at the over in this one, over 228. And by the way, there are 4 NBA games tonight. Ronald's about to give you 3 of them for free here on the show. And the one other game we're not talking about, you can get for $5. That's right, because it's $5 Tuesday. He's got a strong best bet on the other game as well on his page. By the way, everybody's got a $5 best bet here for Tuesday at WagerTalk.com. All right, we looked at Brooklyn, Cleveland. Let's look at the top game here at 7:30 Eastern, top of the rotation, Bucks and Pacers. Milwaukee currently about a 2.5 point road favorite. Total's hefty in this one also. It's gone from 232 up to 235. How are you attacking the Bucks and Pacers at 7:30 Eastern, Ronald?
Yeah, I'm actually looking towards the over again in this one. If you look at the Bucks side, they do have the rest advantage. Third game in 4 nights. If you look at the Pacers side, second game of a back-to-back, they are coming off 18-point losses, 4-point road favorites yesterday. Also more fatigue, right? Third game in 4 nights, fourth game in 6. So not sure the legs are going to be there to play solid defense. Halliburton is questionable, which is the only reason why I stayed off of this game, because his impact on this game can change the total dramatically. So if you look at Halliburton when he's on the court, their offensive rating for the Pacers, 116.8. When he's off the court, 106.8. So a huge 10-point gap right there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, it goes from a defensive rating of 114.5 when he's on the court to 110.5 when he's off the court. So offense takes a huge dip. Defense gets a little bit better. So that's the reason why I want to wait if I was to play this game for Halliburton's status. But a lot of things are actually pointing towards the over regardless. If you look at the Pacers side as home dogs, they haven't covered that well, 3-5 ATS, but opponents in that situation, 7-1 to their team total over. So their defense definitely lacking in that spot. If you look at them on back-to-backs, 2-7 ATS, 7-2 to the team total over for their opponents in that situation. And if you look at the Pacers off a loss like they did yesterday, 18-8 to the 18-8-1 to the over. In those games combined, 236.8 average. And if you actually add to the fact that they come off a loss and they're the underdog in the game like they are today, they're 12-0-1 to the over in that spot, 121.4 per game on their side, giving up 124 per game. That's 245.5 combined. So I can see why the total is going up there. On average, too, if you look at their home and road splits, they are averaging about 6 points per game more at home than they are on the road. So offensively, they do better. Defensively, they struggle in this situation. If you look at pace of play, last 10 games, Bucks are 6th in pace. There's just a lot of things kind of pointing towards the over here.
Yeah, I think another reason it's risen also, the Bucks injury report is out. The Pacers not yet submitted. So as Ronald say, keep an eye on Halliburton, one of the best assist guys in the league. So it's not a surprise that their offensive rating is weaker without him. But Gianni The Greek is listed as probable. Damian Lillard listed as probable as well. So Milwaukee should be at full strength tonight when they play this game at 7:30 Eastern. All right, let's look at the late game. Clippers, Pelicans, 8 o'clock Eastern. Only 4 games tonight. The late game is at 8 o'clock Eastern. Clippers currently about a 7-point road favorite. Totals bumped a little higher on this one also. Open 221 up to 222.5. What are you doing with this game tonight, Ronald? Clippers at New Orleans.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting game. I think if you look from a spot perspective, I think you look at Clippers off an OT win, a last-second shot by Kawhi. Then you go, and they're on the first leg of back-to-back games. I think initially when someone looks at that type of schedule, they're going to say, oh, let's fade this team here. But situationally, if you look at from a league-wide perspective, I look since 2018, road favorites on the first leg of back-to-back games, coming off an OT game, 27-6 straight up, 22-8-3 ATS. They could be favored here for a reason. Is one of those types of things that myself and Ski like to say. You look at these types of situations, and it's totally different than what you expect. So especially from a line or total perspective, sometimes the books are telling you a little bit of a story there. I think the Clippers are the right side. If you look at the Pelicans, they are coming off of a cover, right, against the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies, they haven't been dominant at all in recent form. They failed to cover in 5 straight prior to that game as well. And if you look at the 3 wins or 3 covers prior to that, to those 5 games that they failed to cover, they were against teams who have been struggling heavily. So a lot of those covers, they're not really that impressive in my opinion. If you look at the Clippers side, they're on a nice 3-game win streak here. So I think momentum on the Clippers side is something that I would back here. I know Clippers are not a great road favorite situational team, but they are good on front end of back-to-back games, 9-4 ATS. If you look at the Pelicans side, they've not been great ATS wise overall on the season, and as home dogs, 4-17 straight up. So this is not a game that I expect them to win. At this number, I think it seems pretty high, but at the same time, from a X's and O's perspective, last 10 games, Clippers, I think they're better on both sides of the ball, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I know the numbers don't match up, but if you look at their opponents and who they played, the strength of schedule, a lot of things kind of show why the numbers are where they are. So Clippers do a better job of forcing turnovers. Clippers do a better job of limiting points in the paint opportunities, which is where the Pelicans thrive the most. So if they're gonna limit those, I can't see where the Pelicans are gonna be able to get their points here. So I would look towards the Clippers -7.
And for the live viewers watching us right now at about 12:23 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, you probably want to play this sooner than later because 3 of the sharper leading indicator books, in my opinion, are moving to 7.5, 7 -15, 7.5 now, while it's 7 elsewhere. So it looks like the sharp money is in agreement with Ronald Cabang here on the LA Clippers -7 tonight on Tuesday. All right, Ronald just gave you 3 of the 4 NBA games for free here for this Tuesday. There's one other game on the board, Ronald, and that is a strong $4% $5 best bet. And you're on a mere 20-5 $5 Tuesday run. So people might want to check it out. Tell us more about it at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, I think I was watching this show a couple weeks ago, or like maybe a week or two ago on a Tuesday, and someone was like, "Oh, $5 Tuesday is a fade," but I think it's a little bit of the, for me, it's a little bit different. I think $5 Tuesday is one of my best spots because I'm one of the more newer guys over at WagerTalk, so I have to really kind of prove my handicapping style and prove that the plays that I give out are solid and sharp. So I think that's the reason why my record is so solid on 20-5 on $5 Tuesdays, but also those 5% plays. If you look at historically over at WagerTalk, 5% plays, I'm actually number 1 in ROI and win percentage. I don't throw 5% plays out there often. I kind of focus on quality over quantity. For the most part. So, $5 Tuesdays is a way for me to really showcase my abilities. It's cheap for you guys, and then it shows that, obviously that I could put out winners and you could, move on to a bigger package, which is one thing that I have right now, a year-long package for just $100 a month. And it's I cover all the major sports, and NBA, number 1 last 30 days. The first 2 years with WagerTalk, I was actually number 1 combined. Current NBA streak, 48-29, up almost 50 units in that span. Number 1 all time in WNBA last year, and that's coming up in about a month or two. Last year I was up 65 units there. NFL sides, number 1 since 2022. So a lot of things every single season. I'm putting up great numbers, and that's the reason why they put up that year-long package for $100 per month.
Yeah, once again, if you're serious about taking a true investment approach, you don't just go for one $5 play on Tuesday. Like Ronald said, it's a great way to try somebody out, and it's a great deal. You get 5 cappers for the price of 1 today. That play is normally $25. You're getting 80% discounts. You get Ronald's $5, you get mine, get Andy Lang's, you get everybody's that you want, and you can try different cappers. But if you're true about winning long-term, a 1-year package for about $100 a month is a fantastic offer. Ronald, once again, is number 1 in the NBA the last 30 days at WagerTalk. And he's the number 1 all-time WNBA capper, and he's got a strong $5 best bet in the NBA tonight. He gave you 3 games for free. That 4th game is just $5 right now. Ronald Cabang, WagerTalk.com. You get there quicker, WT.buzz/RC. Great seeing you, Ronald. Stay hot, and we will talk again soon. And hey, look, let's keep diversifying. We are going to look at an NBA player prop, but we're also going to talk some golf and some UFC with the prop master, Andy Lang, who is also at WagerTalk.com. Andy, welcome to the show. Let's talk a little golf. I haven't talked golf with you in a while. You're looking at a first-round prop. I guess we'll call it a prop, right? A first-round bet here in the upcoming tournament.
Yeah, just first off, a shout out to the chat room and Justin, who says, welcome to Wager Talk, where everyone is number one. I have come prepared. Steve, I am number one in lifetime 1.5% tennis plays on Tuesdays. So there you go, Justin. How about that? Let's talk Victor Hovland. That's a true stat, by the way. Let's talk Victor Hovland, and we're going to take his over 70.5 on his round one score. Normally, these don't come out till the day before, but this is the Players, Steve. Huge golf tournament. So they got these out earlier. So go back to August of 2023. Victor Hovland wins the FedEx Cup. Steve, he is the best. He's the champ. He does the unthinkable, which is he decides he's going to change his swing because he thinks he can get better. He just won the championship. So he changes his swing, and what happens? It's a disaster. His last year was awful, and it's been even worse this year. He shot 73 in the first round here last year. He missed the cut last week, shooting 73 and 76. He's not even getting close to shooting 70. His putting is awful. It's 16th worst in this field. He's horrific around the green. He's outside the top 75 driving in the field, and now he's making fun of himself, saying things like, yeah, that was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. I have very low expectations coming into tournaments now. He is just an absolute fade after winning. Steve, this would be like if Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl and was like, you know what, next year I'm going to be a running quarterback. I've decided this throwing is a little overrated. I'm really going to – it makes no sense. I have no idea why he changed his swing after winning the championship, but he's all fade material for moving forward.
No, I mean, the analogy I thought you were going to say is that Peyton Manning decides to play left-handed. I mean, that's crazy. I think there's two things here. I mean, first of all, I think some of these world-class athletes, it just comes too easy for them and they get bored maybe, or I don't know. I'd say a lot of the younger kids I coach is that less is more. Stop adding all this junk to your swing, or your shot or whatever sport we're playing. But there's also that human nature thing, like if you have a business, you want to sell 30 products instead of the Costco approach where you have 2. And you just do it really well. The diner approach versus the Chipotle Subway approach, right? And that's fascinating. I did not know that. I don't follow golf that closely, but I like where you're going with that. And when you find a catalyst like that for a reason somebody is off, you ride it until they make that change back or until you see a couple good rounds out of them, I would say. So that's fascinating. And, Andy, all seriousness, you're going to get good prices on this, right? Because he's a world-class golfer until the change. So it's not like this score is 77. It's 70.5.
That means he has to shoot -2. I mean, the weather is going to be perfect, but like he shot 73 in the first round. He was awful, and he's gotten even worse this year. So the books have not caught up to it. I don't know why, but yeah, Hovland is a fade. And honestly, Steve, in golf, that's what we're looking for. I'm not looking for players to bet on. I'm looking for players to bet against. That's my first thing I look. I'm looking for guys that are really, really struggling. So we cashed on betting against Schauffele last week. That's how we're going to approach it again this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think golf and maybe tennis are the ultimate sport where, it's an individual sport. And if something's not going right, it can get ugly fast. And you got to see it turn the corner. He's a falling knife. World champ, falling knife. Don't try to catch him in the next round. Let's look at the NBA again. Ronald just gave us 3 of the 4 games from side total perspective. But, of course, you're the prop master at WagerTalk.com. Give us an NBA prop tonight for Tuesday.
Yeah, 30-10 run in the NBA. NBA has been red hot. Cash one last night. Let's take a look at Bogdanovic over 5.5 rebounds plus assists. I don't know what's happened, but he's really started to pad the stat sheet with the Clipper over in 5 straight and 8 out of 10. He's getting over 5 potential assists per game and over 5 rebound chances. That's more than enough to get over this 5.5. He's gone over in 6 out of 7 games where Kawhi plays, which is tough to find 7 games that Kawhi plays these days. But when Kawhi has played, Bogdan's gone over. And they're playing the Pelicans, who as you know, Steve, are just awful. 27th and 29th in defending rebounds and assists. They just gave up 57 rebounds and 24 assists to Memphis the other night. So they're awful. It's what a disaster season it's been for them. So fading them any way we can and trying to fade some of these other teams that have kind of given up on the season. So we'll go with Bogdan over 5.5 rebounds and assists tonight.
Yeah, I love it. It's Bogdanovich. There was a guy who played at William Mary about 20 years ago, a point guard named Scotty Scott. So his parents, I guess, named him Scott. Always thought that was cruel, but I guess they do it in other countries as well. I never really thought about it until I was seeing that you say Bogdanovich. I was like, basically, they named him the same first and last name. Don't know if that's common on that part of the world. We shall find out more. I'm sure somebody in the live chat will have an answer on that. Andy, UFC, another sport you do quite well in, and you've got a nice little size underdog for us for UFC Fight Night 254 this Saturday.
You see the double name in UFC too. There's a lot of Magomeds. Magomed off, some of those things. Yeah,
it's common.
I'm going to take absolutely. I'm going to take a look at an underdog that I think is way, way underpriced, and I'm just worried that this is going to be the parlay buster. So we're going to take a look at Sungwoo Choi plus 390 over Kevin Vallejos. Vallejos is a really, really good up-and-coming fighter. He has one loss on his resume, and that's to Gene Silva, who those of you that follow UFC know Gene Silva's on a skyrocket to the top in UFC. So that loss has aged really, really well. He's going to be 5 inches shorter than Choi. And Choi is coming off of getting knocked out. You do have to worry about his chin, but I think that's Vallejos' only path to victory here. Choi, 2 fights ago, he actually beat Jarno Aarons by getting this to the ground and having really good top control. And Vallejos is going to have to try and get into that reach that Choi has. Choi is going to have much, much longer arms and kicks. So Vallejos is going to have to work really, really hard. Listen, if he gets to the chin and lands clean, can he knock out Choi? Yeah, absolutely. But if he doesn't, he's going to be the smaller fighter. He's going to be the one that has a disadvantage on the ground. I think there's some value in Sungwoo Choi at plus 390 here at the big price.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing you love about UFC is that these dogs can cash, right? They're one move away, one punch away from sometimes. And I love reach advantage. I think that's vastly underrated. You know, people forget when McGregor was in his prime, he was a 170 guy fighting in the 140 weight range. He was like 2-3 inches taller, had that reach advantage. Very underrated when handicapping the fighting world. And Andy, you've just been red hot. 15-3 the last 3 days alone. 15-3, 65% up over 45 units the last 30 days. And I was just actually looking at your last 20 right now. And don't forget, everyone, you can look at everyone's recap of their best bets each and every day. Their last 20 are posted on the page, win or lose. I love when I do the video. Steve only talks about his winners. Well, first of all, we all have more winners than we do losers, so I'm going to be talking about the winners more. But also, rain or shine, right. You know, rain or shine, they're on the page. And I'm looking now, and I already knew this, Andy, but you and I have had nowhere near any crossover. So you talk about diversifying your portfolio. I mean, you're talking tennis, you know, UFC, golf, player props, darts. This is a dart season. Lacrosse. What else you got going on at WagerTalk?
So darts is such a funny one. So they've had 5 nights of the Premier League, Steve, and we've cashed every single one. We have not had a losing night in darts. It's been profitable every single time. So we're running a special 365 days for $99 a month. Listen, most bettors treat this like a hobby. And unfortunately, sadly, that's why they end up losing their bankrolls. That's not what we do. Our bankrolls, our businesses. We don't gamble. We invest. We are built for long-term profit, and we have the track record to prove it. 93 units in 2023, 127 units in 2024, and already up 48 units in 2025. When we put in plays, these are plays that we bet with our own money. That is 268 units over the last 2+ years, just by sticking to our system, avoiding the big public mistakes, and betting with discipline. So there's no better time to jump on long-term. We do not fire off big plays on the marquee TV games. This is an investment, and this is a business for us. So invite everyone to take advantage of it. We don't run these year specials very often. WT.buzz/AL. If you're looking to take your bankroll to the next level, we can help. WT.buzz/AL.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, Andy hit the nail on the head. This is an investment approach, and I've always talked about diversifying in the financial markets. You want to have equities, bonds, commodities, cryptocurrencies, whatever you want, because they're not correlated. Andy's not correlated to most of the other cappers at WagerTalk. He's doing tennis, golf, lacrosse, darts, UFC, and player props. And once again, it's been very profitable. The record speaks for itself. And you can check out everybody's record, everybody's best bets. You can click on them to read the recaps each and every day, everybody at WagerTalk.com. And once again, it is $5 Tuesday right now. Every capper has a $5 best bet. Normally it's $25 for a single play. You can get everybody's play today for $5. So buy multiple cappers. It's a great way to try them out right now on Tuesday at WagerTalk.com. All right, once again, the Prez will be back tomorrow, Wednesday. Always enjoy filling in for him. Steve Merrill here on WagerTalk TV. And I will have some free college basketball videos for you this afternoon. So make sure you click subscribe and click that bell for an instant alert so you know when the videos are posted for free. And also, if you're liking the content, thumbs up, like, comment on both the live chat and the replay. Comment below on YouTube. We do read the comments and we reply back. And the more thumbs up, likes, and more comments, the more live shows, the more free play videos we all do each and every day here on the channel. All right, let's finish out this Tuesday edition as we always do with the Steam Report. Gianni The Greek from Las Vegas, Nevada. Ace, great to see you once again. Back-to-back days, a pleasure. And you said yesterday, not a lot of movement this time of the year, for some of these conference tournaments. We got some of the finals going tonight, and we do have some of the bigger boys starting off in the first round of preliminary games. Anything catching your eye on the movements?
Yeah, picked up today, that's for sure. In fact, I already released 4 plays, 2 of them 4%, 2 subscribers. So things are starting early. I'll fire a couple plays that I got down. Remember, I provide accounts for different groups, different guys that have a track record that win long term. I take a percentage of these accounts because I trust that long term they're going to turn a profit. So everything I release, I bet on. I don't release everything to my subscribers, though. That would, number one, be way too much volume. Number two, I know they wouldn't be able to get down on the best number all the time. So because of that, I narrow down those selections from what we bet that I still believe are plus EV, and more importantly, that I had already leaned on that way. So here's what we bet on. Haven't released this to subscribers, but we did bet 616 Southern Utah plus 6.5, Southern Utah plus 6, 629 over 143.5, 144 Montana State, Northern Colorado, 306.570 Vermont at -4, and a small money line bet there. 619 over 144 on Fairfield Sacred Heart, 309. 024. Oh, no, that was a tennis that went off early. Forgive me. And 621, Sam Houston. And then I see a difference of opinion. It's funny. One group bet game 629. They came in and went over 143, Montana State, Northern Colorado. 5 minutes later, another group came in and went under 143. 608 Central Florida and Utah. One went over at 157.5, and the other came in 157. Actually, they laid minus 115 to go over 157 and 157.5. And when they moved it up to 158.5, 159, other group came in and bet the under. So my goal is hopefully it lands somewhere there in the middle. I could cash with both groups. Otherwise, I'm just going to lose a little vig on that Central Florida and Utah game. Like I said, the first group went over, and as soon as that line moved up about a point and a half, 2 points, other group came in and bet the under. Shows you not only just how tight these lines are, but sometimes there's manipulation as well. I always talk about I don't have access to all the information. I don't move for every group that's out there. And a lot of times you'll see this happen where they'll fire. I talk about it all the time. All it takes is a limit bet or 2 in the right account. And next thing you know, it's getting hit 5, 10x the other way after the movement opposite of the initial move.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to touch on. We'll come back to that because I think that's an interesting concept. You mentioned Vermont money line. I'm looking, they're a 5-point favorite. Now, a lot of times you'll say they'll play first half money line, full game. They'll just try to get more volume down on the games. But is this a situation where they're playing the money line, but you didn't get a -5 play? Do you see that often? And I'm just wondering what the logic might be behind that.
I think so, because they stopped at 4. They stopped at -4. In fact, up to minus like 112. It's up to -112. I even got down and they accepted it. I could find -4, -112. take it. They said, then came back and bet a little money line as well. So 5's one of those numbers. I think it's even worth like 11 points instead of 11 cents instead of 10 cents. So it could have something to do with that more than anything else. Because again, at this time of year, it's not really hard to get money down. The more difficult part is getting the number, because there is, especially even a day like today, everybody's looking to take advantage of it. And the books are well aware that these groups are out firing, and they're going to move pretty quickly and significantly. They're going to respect that action immediately, because just the history of the conference tournament, history of March Madness, how well they've done. So rather than even take a shot of having to take greater risk at a lower number, they'll adjust it. A lot of times setting themselves up for a middle, but at least it stops others from piling on. Like at this time of year, it's rare that they're going to go from -4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6. Usually you'll see like a -4 go to -5. You know what I mean? A minus, 5.5 go up to 6, 6.5 quickly. If it does do that half-point movement, it'll go through it pretty quickly, especially around those key numbers, those numbers that matter. They'll go right through them, like we see in the NFL as well, where once it goes, they'll even add vig on a lot of these. Like you see, if they don't want to get middled, and they're doing it a lot with the totals, you see those sharper books that if we'll go over 147.5, rather than go to 150, like you see, because they're moving 2 points, 2.5 points, 3 points sometimes, they'll just make you lay -120, 122, 125 to go over, knowing nobody that's moving, no runner's going to lay that extra big just to get down a bet. So that kind of stops them in their tracks, and more importantly, closes up the middle opportunity. Because once you go, like I said with that Central Florida game, now if it falls in the middle, they got to pay both sides. The guys that went over 157, the guys that went under 158.5 or 159, as high as it went.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I mean, these are the sharpest lines we're going to see all season, the conference tournament games, because there's about 15 to 18 common opponents. They've all played the same teams for the last 2 months, and these lines are very sharp as they're going to be all year. So that half point is worth more now. And yeah, Vermont went from 3.5, 4 up to 5. I even see a 5.5 now at DraftKings. And, you talk about key numbers. People might not realize there are somewhat key numbers in basketball because of fouling. And I've always said 7's kind of the cutoff. 5 would make a lot of sense as well, because this is do or die also. It's a conference semifinal. The team that's losing it, their season is done. So they're going to foul a little bit later and a little bit sooner maybe than they would in a regular season game when they have to turn around and play 2 days later. So that's something else you worry about.
And you see it. Just check for yourself, like numbers. Just check it by a half a point. Like going up, I see, like I always compare it to my sharpest book. Like a -4.5 to go to -4, they're charging 122. They're not charging -120 for that half a point. Where going from 13.5 to 13, they'll go to only 120. It's not even worth that. It's probably worth 7 cents, not even 10 cents. But the numbers that do matter, that's how you could tell for yourself. You could jot down exactly which half points matter most by seeing, are they just charging you that -120 to go from, -110 to -120? Because if that's the case, then rest assured it's not worth 10 cents. It's probably worth 6, 7, or 8 max. But if they're charging above that 10 cents, like I said, this guy's charging, to go from -4.5 to -4, he's charging 122. That's a sharp book. Right then and there that half point's worth 10 cents at least, may even be worth 11 cents. So you're never going to get the best of it with the sharper books. But there's still some credit shops I have where that's not the case, where they just charge 10 cent flat pretty much on any half point. And I buy it for myself because I just compare it to their line. If the sharpest book is charging me 123, 124, and I could get it at my square out for 120, I'm going to buy it there automatically. Just because I already know I'm not losing anything. At the very least, I'm getting a fair break-even bet. And more times than not, I'm probably even getting a penny in my favor because they're just charging 10 cent flat on a lot of the credit shops.
Yeah, this is another reason I talk about the free odds page is great, a slight delay at WagerTalk, but the odds logic page has everybody, includes some of the sharper books you can't get on the WagerTalk free page. And I gave it out yesterday, oddslogic.com/SM if you want to try it for free 7 days. I'm looking right now, maybe the biggest game of the night, Gonzaga St. Mary's. Gonzaga opens -3. It's 3.5 across the board. And I think what you and I would consider probably the sharpest book in the world is -3, -118, when everybody else is 3.5 now in Gonzaga. Very interesting in that one. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that it's not that there's more money on St. Mary's, but that it's like a little over 60% actually of the cash, and the ticket's a little even higher on the St. Mary's side, looking at it right now. Again, that's such a late game, so a lot could change between now and then. It's what, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, so a lot of recreational bettors haven't even gotten involved yet, and a lot are even at work, so they're not betting these later games, so that can change. But it's just interesting right away. A little St. Mary money came in immediately against the Zags. And Zags have been one of those teams that get money all the time, but they just haven't rewarded their backers at the window. You know, the odds makers have done a really good job of protecting the bookmakers against that Gonzaga team, where even if when they were winning, they just weren't getting covers ATS. And looks like the public's fading them here for sure against St. Mary's, at least early on.
Yeah, Gonzaga's was a huge money burner earlier this year, and they're going to be a very interesting team come postseason, because if you look at the net rankings, like KenPom, some of the other metrics, they've been a top 20 team all year, and they haven't been ranked like top 30, 35 even in the AP polls. So it's interesting. You can almost make a case Gonzaga's going to become a little bit of an anti-public team in the postseason. We'll see how that plays out.
You think they could take them 3 straight? That's a lot.
So I'm digging into this game right after the show. I'm going to have a free play video on this game. This is one of those 2 games I'm doing for the free play. Yes, I haven't dug into it yet. I'm going to take a look at it, but I have talked about them a lot in my top 25 video, because I think they were both Saturday games this year when they played. The one thing, Ace, that always jumps out to me about this matchup is that St. Mary's is one of the 5 or 6 slowest teams in the country out of 364, and that's always a team that makes my short list, and Gonzaga likes to play up tempo. With that said, though, Gonzaga has played them pretty tough over the years, and they're more familiar than other teams. So these are 2 teams that are both in the NCAA tournament. This game may be for seeding a little bit. But, yeah, it's interesting also, by the way, the line's gone up a half a point. The total's gone up as well from 138 to 139. That makes sense because Gonzaga plays fast, St. Mary's plays slow. So side total probably somewhat correlated.
They're betting it over. They're kind of betting it over, too. I mean, a little bit more, not crazy heavy. But I've seen like the parlays and teasers, they are betting it over. So it's like they're teasing St. Mary's up, getting them up to 7 points, 7.5 points. That's what I see a lot of: St. Mary's and over teasers, St. Mary's and over teasers. Again, don't tease college basketball. Even if the bet wins, it's just not a good bet. It really is. And I can't understand why bettors do that, or why they even go ahead and buy not a half point, a point and a half. So, like, they'll see a -4.5 and they want to get it down to 1 possession, and they'll lay whatever it is, 160, to get it down to -3, thinking now I got -3. No, you don't. You laid 160 for -3. You don't no longer have -3. You know what I mean? You have a even worse number than laying the 5.5 more times than not. The 4.5.
No, my favorite line of all times is still like, I'm not going to lose by the hook. So I'm buying it down from 6.5 to 6. Well, what if you buy, it goes to 5? It's like you can always lose by, you can buy 10 points and lose by the hook still. Like, there's no way to prevent that. But yeah, long-term investment approach, like Andy was talking about, versus short-term. If you got to win tonight and you're going to lose your house otherwise, then buy the extra half point. But otherwise, if you want to win long-term, then don't lay the extra juice. We talked about this yesterday, folks. Great segment here on Monday's show about how sports books are ripping you off nationwide right now with increased juice. So watch the Monday replay here of the Steam Report, because it's something that we need to get a hang on, because I hate these -124, these 24-cent lines, and don't give into it. Ace, you talked about it yesterday. Don't play at the books that are ripping you off, and they will stop ripping people off. It's the only way to prevent it.
That's the only way. But it's great to say to do that, but bettors aren't going to do that. March Madness, those books are going to be on the Strip just as packed as the Westgate is, just as packed as Circa is. Those books that are charging that kind of price on the Strip are probably even going to be more packed than the ones I touched on, the Westgates and the Circas. It's just bettors want action, man. And as long as the books know that, they're going to make sure they shade those lines and that VIG as much as possible and take advantage as much as possible. Their goal is to increase hold. That's it. At the end of the day, that's all they look at. How much was the betting action and how good was our hold? They get bonuses based on their hold. If the hold is greater, the bonus at the end of the quarter is greater. So their job is to make the sportsbook as much money as they can. And I don't blame them. It's a business. We're all trying to do the exact same thing. Whether you are selling, bubble gum or whether you're bookmaking, you're going to try to, increase your margins as much as possible. And they're doing it because the market continues to take it. But you don't have to. That's what's beautiful, that because of the market, because of the lack of monopoly, especially in sports betting, there's so many avenues that you could go down. There's so many shops that you could bet into that you don't have to take it. It's different if we don't have a choice. Like if everybody's painted that way. But when they're not, then it's on you not to be lazy, to hunt those down and only bet through those.
That's what's ironic about it to me, though. Is like there's 30 plus states now that have legalized sports betting, and we're seeing more books offer minus 111 each way, minus 112. It should be the opposite. With competition, they should be all minus 105 now. And as we said yesterday, I think once the market becomes a little more educated over the next 5-10 years, more like Europe, hopefully we'll see more reduced juice, maybe a betting exchange. It's on my to-do list. Yeah, I know. I've been trying to figure out a way to make that work. The problem, and we'll leave it at this real quick, but the problem with the betting exchanges, back in the day with Matchbook and the other ones, is that, in my opinion, Gianni, is that the sharps just end up festering on each other, and it just ends up killing the exchange because, once again, the squares don't appreciate the value of minus 102 each side. Yeah.
I saw the exact same thing. You're absolutely right. It's just them betting against each other, more or less, ends up happening.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful, but I think it's a ways away still. But maybe one of these technology's better now, so maybe it's possible. Hey, speaking about getting a better price, blackjack you talked about yesterday, 3-2 versus 6-5 is another example. And if I'm not mistaken, does your blackjack course start tonight, which is included free with your 1 year all access?
Next Tuesday. Okay,
I remember you saying Tuesday. All right, we got a week still.
Next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. If you look on my Twitter at Greek_Gambler, I asked for the 5 things that you need. That's all you need. Let me repeat them here real quickly. And I'm sure whoever has the gear already got the email. This is all you're going to need. 6 decks of cards, standard size, a discard tray, which I already put a link to. They're like $10. Thin rubber bands, a notebook, and just wipe up your catch up on your add, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. 5 things. That's it. Show up with those 5 things. You will leave the favorite, no doubt. Not sure how many sessions it's going to take to get you there because it's the first time we're doing it, but I will continue doing it until every student leaves competent, that they have the skill set and the blueprint, and all they need to do now is perfect it and practice it. And as long as it takes, we're going to do that week by week, baby. I'm so excited for it. I really am. And again, starts next Tuesday. I did put a limit on it. I told JD you can't teach 100 people. You just can't do it. It's going to take too long. So there is a cap on it. We're not there yet, and it's not to entice anyone to jump on board. But there is going to come a point where we're going to have to cut it off. And, hopefully it goes well and we can do it again next year. But right now, it's still wide open. And like I said, just go to my Twitter, go to WagerTalk. All the information's there.
Yeah, once again, you get there quicker with wt.buzz/VR for Vegas Runner. And that's the Blackjack Advantage course included for free with the 1 year all access. And you're getting an $811 discount on the 1 year pass instantly, and then getting the Blackjack course for free. Ace, great to see you as always. He's here every Monday through Friday at about 12:30 Eastern time for the Steam Report. And then, of course, he makes appearances Saturday and Sunday on Wager Talk Last Call, which we've been doing at 11 a.m. Eastern this basketball season here on the network. That'll do it. Another great episode of Wager Talk today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, thumbs up, like, comment below, and also make sure you subscribe here to Wager Talk TV and click that bell for an instant alert so you know all the shows and free play videos go up each day. And once again, I will have a twofer. 2 free college conference championship games tonight, including that St. Mary's Gonzaga game. Free plays for those coming up in a couple hours this afternoon. So click subscribe and click the bell for instant alerts. And stay tuned here to Wager Talk TV. It's $5 Tuesday. One more time. Best bets for $5 tonight, Tuesday at WagerTalk.com. And stay tuned here to Wager Talk TV because there's more great free content coming up next.